Hi, everyone. It's March 29th. This is our spontaneous workshop with people from Southern New Hampshire University who are either alumni of my previous classes or we used to invite people from the Discord who were part of SNHU that or don't have to be part of SNHU. But anyway, everybody here is SNHU. I will ask you if you have questions about class, and then we'll move to reading some very short flash length material that I have and writing to a prompt. When we write to the prompt, I give you 6 minutes. I'll warn you, like 5 minutes, warn you that there's a minute left. And then if you want to, you can read out your prompts following that, like what you wrote. And if you don't want to, that's fine. Like that's not uncomfortable. That's, oh, let Kirsten in. There we go. This will happen over and over. If you don't want to read, that's fine. I think you'll grow more and more comfortable and see that we read, even if we didn't get something incredibly amazing. It's just a great experience to hear what everyone got. So we read this, we write to a prompt, we do it twice. And then as the new people grow more comfortable, the new iteration of this is that we do what I call the speed round. And we'll have 4 readings and 4 prompts. And at the end of the time, we'll just read the one that you want to read from the 4. But I didn't think it was fair, everybody's first time out, to be like, we're going to do 4 6-minute writing prompts. It's kind of like a muscle. And so this time we're just going to do the 2. But you have 2 more to do on your own. Some of you did them last time we were here. I try to run these every 2 weeks during the term. Sometimes I'll have stuff show up that, interrupts my life. And if that happens, I'll let you know. But right now, my Saturdays look pretty filled out. And then in the future, if you want to keep coming, the Discord channel is probably the best place to be told that, I'm running one, or I do put it on Slack, but it's one of the only things that happens over on my Slack channel anymore. So if you don't want to pay attention to 2 places, I highly recommend the Discord, the POV, where Randall and Kirsten and Jesse, who's not here this morning, and Suzanne, who's definitely out doing really fun wedding prep stuff, is not here. They're probably the most active people over there, right? Yeah, awesome. Randall, anything from the POV that you want to say before I ask about class?
Well, I would, encourage everybody, like Max already said, to join it. It is, I get a lot from it. The book that I just finished recently was written because of stuff that came up through POV, ideas that I got through writing prompts we did together. We do reciprocal feedback. So if you want anything looked at, as long as you're willing to look at something for somebody else, we're happy to take a look at it. And there's all sorts of community building stuff over there too. So we'll share writing resources, book recommendations, stories that we're working on. We'll do brainstorming sessions, and we also do meetings like this in Discord for video. And we'll do, sometimes it's a lesson, sometimes it's writing prompts together, but you should definitely join us. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I would say they're just, y'all are really talented people. And so your lessons are amazing. Everything over there. I mean, their Discord is what I wished my Slack could be, but I just don't have the time and energy to put into my own channel what they've done with theirs. So I recommend it. Any questions about 532 or about 529? I will just speak briefly then to 2 things that are important to know in these classes, which are first for both classes. Hello, Lincoln. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Sorry.
It's fine. Lori, you were going to wave.
I was waving to Lincoln.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. First, just remember that SNHU has a pretty strong self-plagiarism policy. So I did attach the student guide to turn it in that should tell you how to see if you have any kind of match percentage or not. Just be sure you're trying not to, like if you use previous material, your match percent should be 25% or lower is the standard that I like to hold. Anything more than that, you're probably not doing enough changing to make it worth the revision that you think you've done to it. So please look closely at that. And I take it pretty seriously. I give a 0 for the assignments that people actually, like if somebody shows up with an 80% match and they didn't even try, yeah, it's going to be a 0. If it's a mistake, which so often it is, we'll have a conversation about it, and then I usually apply the late penalty to something new, not a unreasonable zero, right? But it's really important. And the reason it's so important is if you're exploring a topic more, change it that much. It's worth the practice of radical revision. So even if you care about something, definitely change it up enough to not have the match, because you're going to discover things in making that many changes. And if you're just using old material, then I don't know why you're in the program. There you go. The second thing is 529 especially, but also keep it in mind for 532. I was saying something at the beginning to Lori about how I love 529, but it's also really hard because every time you have a milestone, your maximum word count is 2,500 words. And I'm very serious about that. I make it 2,550 so that you can just look at the word count, and, like the information block and your title and stuff don't count towards it. So I give you that much fudge room, but otherwise it's really important to hold it to 2,500 words. For 532, it's going to be different. You're going to have something like be within 10%. And if you're writing prose, it's usually about 1,000 words, but definitely look at the guidelines for submission and my announcement, because sometimes in the guidelines for submission in 532, they will limit like script writers and poetry, and they won't limit prose. And I'll say, that's not fair. We're going to limit everybody else, but prose has a free day. And so then in the announcement, I will give a prose limit just to try to make things fair. And in the end, there's two important things: controlling your words and writing more densely and more compactly. And I know Randall's going to back me up on this in just a second, is really important. And the other thing is just understand that I do have, I think, 40, I don't know, 44, I can't remember what I have this term, students. So like when I have 40 people turn in, 2,000 words, can somebody do the math for me? Isn't that like 80,000 words?
We're English majors. It's a lot.
I'll just say that's a
More than
novel.
this.
Yeah, it's a novel. And so that's a lot to ask me to read and grade in a week for one class, and I teach two. And so, I mean, I think there's a couple of reasons that SNHU gives those limitations, but the most important, I think the biggest learning point of those limitations is controlling your words. And Randall, back me up.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, I write epic fantasy, and we're known for being like super wordy. I have several manuscripts that are over 350,000 words. And when I took Max's class, I thought 2,500 words for a whole story, that's impossible. I can't do it. It's just too short for me. But the more you work at concision, it also makes your stuff better, even on the lengthier side. I've noticed it in my fantasy stories that I take out a lot of the stuff that I end up having to kill later anyway. So I will, I'll credit a lot of my success in getting an initial manuscript under 100,000 words to the class that I took with Max, because it taught me the importance of concision. And that's important for a debut author, because if you're wanting to get a book published, they really don't want to publish anything over 100,000 words for an initial publication. So really, it's important. Like, I really, really agree with what she's saying. It's super important to be as concise as you can when you're writing.
And Dr. Max is really great at like actually helping, because I was in the same boat as Randall writing fantasy, and like I was like, I can't write 2,500 words. That's impossible. And Dr. Max is really great at like helping me figure out where to cut words. Like, he was the person who helped me figure out like, oh, these words aren't necessary in your writing. And so when she gives you feedback, like actually really look and listen to her feedback and like take it into account, because it was so helpful.
I didn't mean to have such nice testimonies. Thank you, both of you.
It really is a difference, like if,
Yeah.
I just recently submitted one that they said the word count limit was 10,000 words. They said, but we know fantasy writers tend to go over that. So if you need to fudge a little, my immediate thought, I remembered Max's class, and I was like, nope, I am going to be under 10,000 words when this is done. So.
Yay.
And coming from the other direction, if you're more like me, like see Dick run, see Jane run, how do I get to 2,500 words? She's very good at the other way, telling you how to add all, setting details and
I can't
rhetorical
believe
language, things like that.
I can't believe somebody said I taught you how to add words, but it is true. And what I would say with the minimum in 529 is I think 1,500 for the first two times, but then the minimum word count for the final project is 2,000 words. So, keep that in mind that your minimum goal is 2,000, your maximum goal is 2,500. It's a pretty narrow window when you think about short story writing, actually. Any other tidbits of advice for the newcomers for 532 or for 529? I don't think any of you all had 532 yet, so just 529. Okay, and just the other thing is, a lot of people are new to workshopping, not everybody, but if you are, just please know from me, I absolutely have your best interest in heart with any comment I make. So I usually give verbal feedback if you don't want that. Like I just do a recording because I'm usually my hair is like this and you don't want to see that. But if that doesn't work for you, just let me know and I will give you all written feedback. And then in my verbal feedback, that means you'll hear me. I'm not as great out loud as great. I'm not as good out loud as I am in writing, but you'll get way more feedback because I can talk to you for 5 minutes and say as much as it would take me, 30 minutes to type. So if I'm less articulate or if I don't sound kind, that is unintended and you let me know because my position is helping writers is my very favorite thing to do in the world. And so if I'm not helpful to you or if I seem abrupt, I want to know because that's not who I want to be.
I disagree with what you said. Your verbal feedback was phenomenal. Like your excitement, and it just makes you, it was so much more exciting than reading something.
I thank you. I'm just saying, what if I get the tone wrong? That's all. What Lori said is how I feel most of the time. It's so exciting to see people trying ideas and working hard. But if I don't sound like that, because life is stressful, let me know and I'll come back to you and give you what I mean to be, which is I'm always enthusiastic about people's writing. I mean, what we do is the most vulnerable thing on earth as writers, I think. So I think it's worse than like walking naked through public. I respect that and I definitely want to uh, convey that when I work with you. Okay, we are about to get started. What I usually do, we'll ask for a volunteer to read from the group, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's in there and be thinking about, especially the elements of fiction, which is something we study in 529, but we'll also talk heavily about setting, which is the main focus of 532. And then we'll push into the prompts, and I'll talk about why I wrote the prompts the way I did and what I'm hoping to achieve. And what's funny is that this is actually what I do while teaching flash fiction in that class I was talking about earlier that I teach through Writing Away Refuge. I do this format with them too, and it's just because it works. So I'm not doing this just because it's good with SNHU. The focus on elements of fiction, the focus on setting, the focus on sensory details and bodies. That's just good writing advice. So know that I think that SNHU has the basics right for the two classes I'm teaching this term anyway. Okay. Is anybody interested in reading my newfound favorite, Open by Colleen Addison? And if you haven't read River Teeth's Beautiful Things, they can't be more than 250 words. And they are beautiful. They are beautiful things.
I can read it.
Thank you, Randall.
Open by Colleen Addison. It has been a lifetime since I have wanted. A long illness leads to a closed off heart. Now I watch the play of muscles under her sleeves and my nerves jangle. Is this what it feels like when your emotions stand ajar? She kindles the fire in her wood stove, and I try not to see meaning in this. The stove's kindling, I think, cannot match a heart's and not mine in any case. But her gray-white hair is enlivened by the beginning flames, the one curl flame-lit by the curve of her neck. I didn't used to feel surprise at this, a rush of blood to the ventricles. But then, when I was last this way, my skin was smooth without surgery scars. The woman I'm watching tugs on the stove's latch, and the newly laid blaze rises up to accept the next log. There's a glance my way, and it's like nothing I've felt in so long. A crack in my chest as the ribs expand. I don't know, though. Does she want me? How to ascertain? If I ever knew, I have forgotten, but I extend my fingers, tentative, towards her. This is what it feels like, a latch being tugged. She might not feel the same, this woman with fire shining through her hair. She might say no, or she might say yes. Either way, I am alive, healing. Either way, my heart might break. Let it break then. Let it break open.
Thank you, Randall. This piece broke me wide open when I read it. Anybody who's felt shut down, felt sick. My sister experienced a long terminal, I mean, 5 years is long, I think, terminal illness. And this one just, I mean, I don't even cry, and I had tears in my eyes when I was done with this one. So it meant a lot to me. Is there anything we particularly admire in this? Anything we want to comment on?
I like the the line about a crack in my chest as the ribs expand, because it kind of implies that, whatever was there has like dried out or closed up with the lack of use. And, for anybody who's been through a long period without feeling that kind of emotion and then it comes back, that's really a great descriptor of what that feels like.
Nice, very nice.
I like that line. This is what it feels like, a latch being tugged. And to me, that's just such a perfect way to describe that feeling in your heart, like when kind of in your chest, like when it kind of begins to expand and you want something. I thought that was really a really nice metaphor or simile.
Sorry, I just was reading. Kirsten, I think that it's in there, but I'll put it up again. I'm so sorry. And because I have it up on my screen, I thought that everybody could see it. My bad. I could also share it. Yeah, Jean, absolutely. It's when we say that a heart, tugged at my heartstrings or something, it's like Colleen Addison found a new way to deliver the tug figurative language, right? And instead it's the tug of a wood stove door. And then, don't you think that the rekindling of a flame really could be a trite figurative language for feeling emotion? But this doesn't feel trite at all, right? No. So if we're thinking in terms of fictional elements, could we see a narrative arc in this? Is there like a beginning, a rising action, a climax of some sort, and a resolution? Do we see that in here? Are there any parts we could name? I usually argue that you can't make a hook by starting a sentence with the first word, it, because we never know what it is in a sentence. So does Colleen Addison manage to have a hook in these first couple sentences?
I think so. I mean, I know it starts with it, but then it follows it with it's been a lifetime since I have wanted. And I think that's really poignant because, like, who doesn't want something? So if it's been a lifetime since you've wanted something, I think that is really intense.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about what you just said, Kirsten, is how it leads you to characterization. We're instantly interested in this character because we want to know why. Why has it been a lifetime since you wanted something, right? Yeah, I agree, Jesse. Her emotions absolutely resonate with the reader. And so it has been a lifetime is such a common phrase that we can say, we can almost not hear the it in that because it's something we're accustomed to hearing. And then that colon, I mean, we can so rarely write in creative writing and have successful colons and semicolons because usually they really interrupt our experience. And I'm forever harping on simplify your punctuation to get it out of the way for your readers. But she has colons and semicolons in here and they work, right? So maybe because her emotion is so complicated, I don't know, but that colon says a long illness leads to a closed off heart. And I think we as readers think we know what that means. So we've had a narrative arc, we've had characterization. What point of view is this being written in?
First.
Yes, that I tells us that we're in the first person point of view. And that lends it a sense of complete intimacy. And I can't remember, but I actually think that maybe Beautiful Things might be nonfiction. I can't remember. I just submitted something like 2 days ago to them, and I can't remember if it was supposed to be nonfiction or not because I play loose and goose with my fiction and nonfiction. My nonfiction is nonfiction, but I might present it as fiction if I want to try to publish it somewhere, just by changing something here or there. So yeah, this is deeply intimate because of the point of view. So we had narrative arc, we talked about the character, we talked about the point of view. What is the physical setting? Do we know it?
I don't think it's fully spelled out, but I also feel like there's enough to bring contingent reality into it. For me, a wood stove feels like a cabin or, something, someplace that is cozy because of its removal from like modern day tech.
Yeah, very nice. So we get to decide what a wood stove means to us, right? She's depending on us, and this is true in all, flash writing. She's depending on us to make meaning with her, to create with her, because with 250 or fewer words, which is the standard for River Teeth, she has to have she has to have us play along or we won't get it. I love that. And Randall used the term contingent reality, which is one I learned from a colleague at the Air Force Academy that I just love, which is we bring our own wealth of past experience to any reading. So even though all of us just sat here today and read the same piece, we each have something different we bring to it. Like I bring my sister's illness to it, knowing what a long illness can do, right? And so this is our contingent reality. It's contingent on our past experiences to create the reality in this moment. Okay, so we have amazing physical setting participation. What about sensory detail? What kind of physicality is being presented to us? The senses, I always say them out of our usual order because as writers, we tend to automatically include sight and sound. So I start with taste, touch, and smell because those are the ones that really can bring something alive. Are those present in here?
Feel like we're just talking about the wood stove, and even I feel like even though she doesn't say a smell or a feel, the wood stove to me implies both, the smell of smoke, the feel of warmth inside this room when outside it's likely very cold, which is also kind of representative. Like she uses that sensory, that one, the wood stove and flaming the kindling to kind of bring in all of those different senses.
Yeah, including a crack in my chest could be like the crack or pop of wood burning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So taste, touch, well, not really taste, kind of smell, taste, touch and smell for sure, sound, sight. Yeah. I mean, the more you pick apart this one, the more brilliant it is because she's just saying wood stove and it means all these things to, participate with your reader. Yeah, wonderful. And then finally,
oh,
go.
Sorry.
Nope, you go.
The sight of the fire shining through her hair.
Uh-huh.
I like that one too.
I do too, especially it's not just that her gray white hair is enlivened by beginning flames, but the one curl is flame lit by the curve of her neck. So like we know it's a reflection off of beautiful skin or skin that's beautiful to the reader, right? I mean the author, the narrator.
So I'm going to be the contrarian here.
Okay, that's
so
surprising.
much. I know. I wanted I'm an immersive writer, right? So I wanted, and I read ahead to the next one. By the way, there is a snippet from the last PDF at the end of the next reading that doesn't belong there.
Oh no, it is.
Yeah, I highlighted it. It starts with wait.
It's awful. Yeah,
that's okay. So, but in this one, I wanted more sensory. When she hit that line about her gray white hair enlivened by the beginning flames, one curl flamelit by the curl, I'm like, give me more. I want more sensory. I want the smell. I want the sound. I want to see this woman and have the same passion that the author, the I, is having. And I didn't get it. There was no connection. There wasn't enough there I'm still stuck on, and I think part of it was I didn't like the after the colon. I like the beginning. It's been a lifetime since I wanted, but then a long illness leads so close. It was too abrupt and straight to the point. It was too on the nose for me, as they say. I wanted more metaphor. I wanted more. And so I was stuck on here's an ill person and what they're feeling. And I wanted the sensory feeling of being in that stove cabin room, of seeing this woman and igniting this passion. And what really turned it on is just realizing how beautiful she was in that moment and that living. So I got a little different from it, I guess. So I'm the contrarian in this.
No, that's
Um,
fantastic. And what I would say is that if you weren't in Beautiful Things, which has a 250 word limit, then go for it. But one of the things
yeah.
that can put people off with Flash is the same thing that puts me off of poetry a lot of the times, which is there's just so much implication because you only have so much room, right? So yeah, there's just this necessary interaction, and I feel to be contrarian to you, Allison, I feel like you just had it all. Like what you just described tells me that it did evoke all of that in
But I
you.
wanted to read it. I wanted to see, I wanted to smell those flames. I wanted the crackling. I wanted to hear it. It just
Mm,
didn't give me so much of the passion that's what I was showing is what I wanted this to give me, and it fell flat with me. And so I put it in, I supplied
yeah,
it. And I
right.
know that might be the point of a flash fiction piece is to keep it short, but there could have been just, maybe five, just pepper in five more words that are feeling words, sensory for me, and I would have been happy.
That is the point of flash fiction, though, is to ask you to supply. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is a conversation with the reader. So I hear you and I can recognize the frustration that you feel about it. And I feel like I have to say, well, that's kind of the point of flash. So, but I'm
Like to,
not
to give an example, like if you cut this is what it feels like. There's one, two, three, four, five, six words, like in the short fiction class that we just came from, right? And all that. I'd cut that whole thing and there's five words that I can put in somewhere else, where I'm looking, where can I cut that? I don't need to tell you this is what it feels like. You're already telling me that, right? So I don't need those
nice.
words, you know?
Thanks for coming, Jesse. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how fun. Start editing it. See what you could do with it. And this is how you make your own work better too. I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
yeah, I love it. I love, a little contrarian piece. That's fantastic. So then I think the last thing we were arriving at was sensory detail, and no, the other thing, figurative language, which rhetorical devices is the larger way that we talk about it in English 529, but figurative language is my favorite part of it. It's the part that I think that people struggle to do well. And so she does have figurative language happening in here. It's symbolic. There are metaphors, similes. What's something that we can name that fits in the bigger umbrella of figurative language in here? When Allison wanted us to cut, this is what it feels like. What was set up there? Like which figurative language thing uses the word like?
Simile.
Right. So we have at least a simile right there. This is what it feels like, a latch being tugged, right? So we have a simile there. And obviously, we just talked about everything that the wood stove could stand in for, right? We just had that whole conversation about how it symbolically can be the opening heart. The wood cracking can also be the cracking in the chest that she mentions, like it works both ways in there. So everything that we study in English 529 and that you should be using also in 532 is present in this one.
The
Um,
kindling is a big one. Obviously she kindles a fire and even had said, I try not to see the meanness. You're kindling something that is growing. That is what is being kindled. That is a long-standing old metaphor, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the author, the narrator says, I try not to see meaning in this, and then gives us all the meaning that they
Yeah.
see, right? Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so that was just a little breakdown of the way, when you see the way that I'm looking at those aspects in this piece, it helps you understand how I'm looking at all the writing you're doing in both of the classes I'm teaching this term. So you get an insight into the way I see things. We talk about how these things work, and hopefully it makes us all better in the end, right? Okay, great. So the prompt I wrote for this is I really wanted to note the focus on the body, right? And its response to an experience. So, and there's more than one experience. I mean, there's the experience of feeling less open to change in life and passion and the things from a long illness. But there's also this experience of ventricles opening, a rush of blood, right? And so she definitely has a focus on the body. So I want you to pick a moment that's either you, these can be nonfiction about yourself, or if you're working on a fictional character, you can have a moment for that character. And that there's got to be some moment that provoked a visceral response, like, rapid heartbeat when we're terrified, or, this kind of moment when it's sensual, or, the joy, like Jean was talking about, when you want something or anticipate something, that expanse of your heart, just the joy. I mean, the first time I heard a red-winged blackbird this spring, I was just like, oh my God, it's coming. The snow will melt someday, and that opening of my heart would be something I might write about. So those are the kinds of moments that I was thinking of when I made the prompt. And then I'm just saying, write about the body in that moment, and keep a, I'm not even giving you words to start with. I'm just saying, like think about what's happening with the blood or the heart or something, and just start writing. So you may not even end up with a narrative arc. This is, I mean, you'll hear the people who've been here the longest, this is an old muscle for them and it's easy. But I'm basically asking you to write. And two things in the rules of writing for the 6-minute prompt: you should keep on writing as much as you can through the whole 6 minutes. Like not lifting up your pencil, but like continuing to write, because you're shutting down your inner editor. Your inner editor will stop and say, don't do this, change this, and don't let it do that. Just keep on writing, just keep going. If you're able to write by hand, that does engage both hemispheres of your brain and changes the nature of your creativity. If you write by typing, which is, how I do most of my composing myself, so I'm not looking down on you if you choose to type, it doesn't engage both sides of your brain. And there's science, there's an article, I could dig it out if you need. So if you can write by hand, if you can't, that's fine as well. And then if if I'm like, on your marks, get set, go, and your brain just goes, oh no, we're not doing this. Just keep writing the same thing over and over again. Like, I don't know what to write, or just, I don't know, if you want it to be shorter. But, I promise you, by the time you get to the second or third, I don't know, your brain will be so irritated with you. It'll be like, fine, here's something, and you'll get writing. So I want to encourage you to just, that's okay, you can type. I just want to encourage you to write, 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 and we'll find out what happens. Okay. All right, everybody, I'm starting the timer. Go ahead and write. You have about a minute left. That's it. Try to wrap things up, please. I know it feels like 3 seconds. I'm aware of that. I can't hold it together well enough to write with you all in these, but when I do it at the library as a volunteer thing for our writing group there in town, I write with them, and so I have sympathy, I promise. All right, people are showing up again. Lori's probably unpacking appliances. Okay. I'd like to kick off just by asking how it went so you can warm up to the idea. You might or might not read what you got. How was it?
That one was kind of fun.
Was it? Oh, good.
I delved a little deeper into one of the scenes in my thesis and I don't know, gave more, I guess, sensory detail than I was able to give in the like when it was actually happening in the story.
Fantastic. So you can go back and revise in that section. That's actually, I mean, you all know Kirsten and Randall went to Writing Way Refuge's in-person retreat in October, but you all know that's part of the big thing I do with the class that I'm teaching is what you just experienced might help your longer work, right? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, mine during the story and plotting class,
520?
one of the little details that I brought out was that the smell of that cooking macaroni and cheese always brings this character, Audrey, back to her and her sister's childhood. And so I just started with that and it went completely dark, but I'm like, that's great because even if I don't make a scene out of this, I've just developed that character
Yeah.
a little further. So,
Yeah, you know something now that you maybe
mhm.
didn't know before. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, is anybody interested in reading? And, if it needs to be old hat people first so that the new hat people feel more comfortable, that's fine.
I can go.
Thanks, Randall.
The darkness is an unwanted house guest, taking space as she pleases. Sometimes she lives in a corner of the attic, so quiet that I almost forget she's there. Yet she'll find a way down the inside of the wall during even the happiest moments to whisper in my ear, "You'll never be enough." Other times she rampages through my home like a rabid lion, shredding my curtains and my sanity and my entrails, lapping up my spilled blood as I suffer in silence. Yet she fears you. She fears you because your laughter returned her to the shadows. Your passing touch banished her, stripped her of power, humiliated her. Your eyes leach away the weary wounds from my too tired heart, and I find the broken connections. I smile again. Could the smallest whisper I wish for be the poison and the salve to finish the battle? I'm left to wonder what power dwells in your lips.
Oh, very metaphorical, right?
So metaphorical. It was beautiful, Randall.
It was.
Randall, was that line, your eyes lick away the weary wounds?
Leech away.
Leech away. Wow, that's better.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that. Yeah.
Randall is our unchallenged king of figurative language in this group, I think.
Oh my gosh, he's like fantastic at figurative language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else did we love? Like, your eyes leech away the wounds. I was typing something else because I loved shredding my curtains and my sanity and my entrails. Oh my gosh. It goes from like literal to moving, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I came back from unpacking the comment and it's like it's so amazing. When she's coming down the walls, she's crawling down the walls, get into your heart or something. It's like, I
Mhm.
don't know. It was cool.
I haven't watched the horror movie because I really don't like horror, but there's Lori reminded me, and this is what she reminded me of. Whoever the horror figure is that I'm aware of that I haven't watched the movie of with the hair that goes like this and she like skitters on walls and stuff, I
The
think.
Grudge.
Yeah. Really
The
reminded me. Oh,
Grudge.
I just got goosebumps. Really reminded me
Oh,
of The Grudge.
See, for
I
me, there was something cat-like in
yeah.
the
mm,
antagonist. The lapping, I think there was the
mm.
line about lapping my blood as it spills. I'm not sure. Was that it? Did I
Yeah.
hear that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And it was
beautiful.
sort of like the yellow wallpaper too, the Gilman one like crawling
Yeah.
around. Eh.
Nice, nice. Creepy all the way around and like very,
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
yeah.
dark for sure. The thing I love about the Fiercely Flash class I teach is now we put all these up in a canvas space, like a classroom, and then I get to read them, and I'm even better when I get to read them than when I hear them. Randall, that
Mm.
was great. It was really great. You're gonna have to polish that one up and send it out for sure. Okay. Um, let's see. I don't think Kirsten's gonna be next. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
I
But
mean,
Oh, you
I don't
will?
completely
mind.
switch gears.
Okay, that's good.
Um, I sit, foot twitching, vibrating ankle against ankle, crisscross applesauce, jaw flexing and releasing, clamping and holding, slide side to side every now and then in a gesture of mock release. Recognize my knees are bouncing left to right again. Stop the twitch. Doesn't matter. 5 minutes later, my teeth are clamped so hard the vibration of my feet wiggling is its echo. I'm waiting for a call. I'm in limbo. My body is appalled at that. An awful juxtaposition, the paralysis of everything else but my wiggling toes. My blood fluxes between moments of flooding rush and full heart-stopping sludge, letdown. Why hasn't the phone rung yet? Did he forget about me?
Mm, this is an uptight person in the best way, like one that we're excited to read about. What do we love that comes in this? I got hung up on crisscross applesauce.
I really loved the short, like staccato sentences. I'm so sorry.
It's just how you have to write. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't do this and have your child, when would you do it? Yeah, I agree. The short sentences have a really good effect. And the crisscross applesauce statement implies an age for the narrator, which is really interesting, right? Danielle's always a fan of short sentences, says agreed, they are punchy.
I like the way I felt like, and I didn't catch this until the sentence, my blood fluxes between these two moments. And that's everything leading up to that sentence is the back and forth, the stimming with the stop this, the action with trying to calm down. It was really powerful.
Mm, hmm
Also
I
like
re
the sludge at the end, the idea that, that it almost invoked for me that feeling of like you're really, really hopeful that something's going to happen, and then it doesn't. It almost feels like your heart sinks or stops for a second, and it really felt that way to me. That like that moment of anxious, like you hate being caught and not having an answer, but then it's like we're right on the precipice of that, and that's why it's so, heart dropping to wonder, so.
Yeah. And I thought the clenching jaw being an echo with the wiggling feet was such a nice, the entire body is so tense, right? And you could say that with just from teeth to feet without saying the rest. Mine was very little. Randall's was a nice over reading. Yeah. Well, that was fun. That was great. Good job. Okay, Kirsten, you ready?
I am ready. Smoke curled from the house's leftover husks. It choked the air, my throat, my nose, my eyes. It was almost better because it obscured the stench of burning flesh, the sight of the bodies that littered the ground in front of me. My legs staggered beneath me, unable to hold my weight, and I crashed to the ground, knees and hands scraping on the debris. Taking a breath felt like claws scraping down my throat, a vice grip clenched around my heart, and heat spread down my arms to the tips of my fingers. Sweat beaded on my brow and gathered on my palms. I couldn't breathe. I squeezed my eyes shut, tried to loosen the panic that gripped me, but it was no use.
Ooh, that
That was
should
the
be
timer, baby.
that should be in there. I think.
It doesn't necessarily fit because mommy turned it off, baby. It doesn't necessarily fit with the way that scene goes. Like there's more that happens in that scene before that part.
Mm.
So I don't know. I could try and see if I can make it fit, but
Or at least this much physical should be existing in the part that happens before that part.
yeah.
Yeah, it probably does. What else did we like?
I like that it was dropped. It feels like you're dropped immediately into that moment, and there's a lot that you don't know the reasons that a lot of these things have happened, but there's enough of a picture that you're really created. Like you're dropped directly in it. It feels kind of like dropping it, one of those in situ scenes in a moment or in a movie where it just like comes immediately in, and like you're in the aftermath of something that's happened, and you've got to figure out what happened. Kind of reminds me of like the opening scene of Lost, where he wakes up and walks out on the beach and the airplane's crashed and there are people everywhere and you have no clue what's going on. You just know it was bad, so we got to figure out what's going on now. And that was
Yeah.
kind of the emotion it gave me.
Nice.
And I really like the language, the words that you've chosen, like burning husk, claws, vice grip. They're very visceral and just kind of give that feeling of tension to me. They really amp up the tension. Really good.
Yeah. And to that line, John, it's like I set you up for this, but claws scraping down her throat, like all the very visceral language that you're using, when you choose figurative language, it should be connected to the bigger meaning in your piece. And for this one, for sure, like we know this scene is about sort of horror and battle and something really bad has happened. And all of your figurative language supports that kind of bigger, profound truth of the moment. Like the meaning behind it has to do with monstrous things happening. So great
Yeah.
choices of words. Yeah. Nicely done. All right. So all the old hats who are going to read have read, John or Danielle. And Danielle, if you're not talking, but if you wanted to put something in the chat, you're welcome to do that. If like you don't, yeah.
I can. I just feel bad interrupting people. So I just stay
No,
quiet.
just jump in. We interrupt everybody. We become kind of like family-ish in here, so it's fine. Do you want to read?
Yeah, I
Yay!
can read.
Okay.
Okay. Nausea, not only a stomach ache, but a constant reminder, pound after pound, a desperation to feed the baby I'm trying to keep. Trying and trying, but my body is hanging by a thread. Against the tub, over the toilet, muscles dissipate with every breath, and I can no longer hold a book without losing balance. The doctor sees me smiling, polite. I am fine, but I am not fine. I am dying. With each hour that passes, the weight escapes with every lurch for an exit. Yellow bile digs through my esophagus and out my mouth, which creates a permanent bitterness. My tongue sticks, hating the taste of any food, of water. Apples is the auto vomit, and it's only until I beg my husband to take me to the emergency room for the sixth time that he hands me Pedialyte. We cannot go. We cannot afford it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm typing. Okay. Oh, in flash fiction, that last thing where you do a shift like that, something a little unexpected, that's always a good move.
Thanks.
Oh, all right. So what did we love? Hmm.
I love that we're dwelling, throughout the piece. We're really like in this very focused view from the POV character. Like all we see is their experience, what they're feeling, and the world feels really small, and that's kind of how you get when you're sick, or when you're dealing with anything, health related. You're so focused in on what's going on inside that you can't focus on the world beyond. And you really get into the details, like especially one that stuck out to me was when you talked about the bile and the permanent taste, and your tongue sticking to the roof of your mouth. Like that really feeds that whole feeling of being dehydrated and exhausted and just lost in the depths of sickness. And I think that's a lot of what makes that turn at the end so powerful, because we spent the whole piece thinking that it's just about, the internal sufferings that this person's going through. And then all of a sudden, we're hit with the outside world crashes in, and it's like a merciless moment of like, and it's not going to get any better. And that to me is why that last line is so powerful, because it expands the scope, and it doesn't give us, like a good sense of closure or comfort. It just reminds us that sometimes this is the way things are.
Yeah. And also exceptionally profound that it's a husband handing his pregnant wife Pedialyte and saying, I know this is our child, but we cannot afford to go. And it's, oh, I mean, that tells an entire backstory, without you ever mentioning without the narrator ever mentioning the rest of the backstory, right? It's heartbreaking, definitely. And then we want this to be a series so that we can find out what happens. Because,
Well, it is nonfiction. So,
oh no.
yeah, no, in the end, they didn't know what was wrong with me. I had hyperemesis and was dying. Like, finally, in the last hospital visit, I gave birth 3 months early, and we're all cool. My daughter's
Oh,
doing great. Yeah,
oh,
so, yeah, no, nonfiction, everything is happy.
I'm
Did they
so
not
glad.
diagnose you? Did they not diagnose you with that? Like, what it starts with a G when like your
Hyperemesis
mornings.
gravidarum, yeah,
Yeah, that
but
one.
they did that, but they don't know if I had preeclampsia in the end because I was starting
Oh,
to possibly seize. So they had no idea what was going
no,
on.
not me. Just like forcing my child to sit here with.
I'm so glad to hear the ending of that. But also, this is such an incredible. Randall said it just right in that we are in that bubble that this person is in. All I want is to keep a hold of my child, and my body is not letting me, is what this seems to say. Anything else we want to add? Yeah,
Oh,
go.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, aside from like figurative language, to me it was just so powerful because not quite to the extent, but with one of my children, the only thing I could ingest was the like chocolate shake, like
Oh,
breakfast
yeah.
protein shake things. I could not eat anything. Just the thought of food just made me so ill, and I've known a lot of people who have had horrible medical experiences while they were pregnant, and that's not the story that you hear.
Yeah.
When we think about pregnancy and things like that, you think of, baby showers and decorating the nursery, and there's so many women who go through this. So to me, just especially that last line was just like a gut punch.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, it's just really, it was powerful.
Men's
Yeah.
fault. No, seriously, there is like
Yeah.
No, I
scientific.
just saw that.
Yeah, they've been
There's
doing like
science that
scientific
shows that like morning sickness comes from the man, that
from the sperm.
preeclampsia
Yeah,
comes from the man. Yeah.
Yeah.
if the sperm is not good, then your pregnancy could be awful, which is
Uh,
why mine with my son was so easy because we did fertility treatments, and so his sperm was washed. So it was like
Ugh,
all the bad sperm got rid of, and it was just all the good sperm.
huh,
And so I had a super easy pregnancy.
noted.
nice. Yeah.
So
Written.
since it's the man's fault and my wife had a really good pregnancy, that means I get credit for that, right?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, it does. It does.
Gold star.
I read the
Gold
same
star.
article. Yeah. Well done, you. Yeah, that's really great. And so Danielle, you're in 532, aren't you? The
Yeah. Yes, I am.
the setting
Place and
class.
setting.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
There will be one where you do sensory detail, and you have to know that anything you do in here is like fair game in there. This isn't
Oh, okay.
class. Yeah, so if you've written this and you like it and you're willing to share and let other people read it, I mean, it's a great one, you know?
Neat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing for, well, it's just you and John, and you're both in 532. But yeah, anything you write here is always fair game in class. So
Oh, fun.
yeah,
Okay.
you might have done your homework.
Yay. I know. I was just thinking one assignment down.
Yeah. And honestly, and this is why the comment block is really important when you submit work. If you have written an amazing, say, 400-word flash and you want to defend, I know it says within 10% of 1,000 words, but this is what I wrote here. I'm open to that because flash is my favorite form. You know, if you've written something really complete, I am open to shortening the amount, not because it's less for me to read, but because I think it's such an incredible form to try to get right. So just use that comment block to talk to me or email me ahead of time. Like obviously you can email me and or text me on that number on my on that's on my signature block. But I'm always open to have a conversation about what you've achieved and why you want to have it work for the assignment. I just don't want to go over because it's the most important lesson to learn about compressing writing like you all have done so well today. And we're about to find out, I think, with John. Do you want to read what you got?
Yeah, I can. To be honest, I had to take a bio break, so I think I
Yeah,
lost a couple of minutes. But
fair. And I forgot to say my other rule, which is if we want to make excuses about what we wrote, because we always want to, right? What do we get to say in here?
Brilliant.
Yep, it's brilliant. So you can intone it's brilliant however you want. You can be like, it's bathroom break, brilliant, but we get to say it's brilliant.
it is brilliant.
Awesome.
Okay. You cannot convince her boiling water doesn't have a smell. The smell of the stove firing up, ancient metal coils burning bright orange, water releasing steam. It doesn't matter how many times she cooks mac and cheese. The smell of boiling water, of the macaroni hitting hot water, the act of unsticking it from the bottom of the pan causes her stomach to churn. Her skin tingles under the pale pink scar, and she sees Chuck yelling, feels herself float from her body as his hairy hand hits the pot onto her arm.
Oh, wow. What do we love?
Love the boiling water doesn't have a smell. That's my favorite.
Yeah, because of course it does. I
Yeah.
mean, the act of boiling water.
Yeah.
What else?
I loved the line that you pointed out, the mac and cheese line, because that is like such a relatable element of the story. That was probably my favorite line.
Unsticking it from the bottom of the pan.
Yeah.
But also,
Cool.
but also for so many of us, mac and cheese is a positive memory. So then when she, well, I say she, I don't, did you have her be a she? Anyway, tingles under the scar. I'm like, oh, foreshadowing, something awful's about to happen. So like all the rest of us are thinking, oh, comfort food. And she's thinking this is when he smacked so hard that he burned me, like that mixed up with mac and cheese is this horrible moment between them. Nicely, nicely done. It's always fun to take something that culturally seems to have, like in general, mac and cheese, amazing, and then turn it on its head for us with this other meaning behind it. Oh, fantastic. Y'all. I mean, you didn't come in like new hats or newbies. Kirsten, what?
Oh, I was gonna say I also think it's really poignant taking something that is like you wouldn't think that that's something that would be associated with like a trauma response. And yet
Exactly.
here it is, mac and cheese trauma response. Like it's so interesting how different things can have a trauma response that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point, Kirsten. Definitely. Well, y'all, amazing, amazing work. This is so exciting. We should move on to the next one because I really lingered, and we'll just see if we can move a little faster. I re-uploaded it because Allison's right. I left part of Melissa Yanis Brownlee's piece that we did last time when she goes to get the Coca-Cola. It was on the end of it. So if you don't have the new one and you're willing to read, just stop at the word wait. It ends, the last words are, I don't need anything from here. And the name is pronounced Krasnahorkai. And I'll gladly read it if you want me to, because it's one of my favorites. So it's up to you.
I can read.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
I Don't Need Anything from Here by Laszlo. How did you say the last name?
Krasnahorkai.
Krasnahorkai. I would leave everything here. The valleys, the hills, the paths, and the jaybirds from the gardens. I would leave here the petcocks and the padres, heaven and earth, spring and fall. I would leave here the exit routes, the evenings in the kitchen, the last amorous gaze, and all of the city-bound directions that make you shudder. I would leave here the thick twilight falling upon the land, gravity, hope, enchantment, and tranquility. I would leave here those beloved and those close to me, everything that touched me, everything that shocked me, fascinated and uplifted me. I would leave here the noble, the benevolent, the pleasant, and the mnemonically beautiful. I would leave here the budding sprout, every birth in existence. I would leave here incantation, enigma, distances, inexhaustibility, and the intoxication of eternity. For here I would leave this earth and these stars, because I would take nothing with me from here, because I've looked into what's coming, and I don't need anything from here.
Thank you. Well read. Okay, so when we use fictional elements, one of the first things we'd look at is narrative arc. Do you see a traditional narrative arc in here, a beginning, a middle, and an end?
I think in a way it's jumbled up because you're seeing so many different things that happened across this implied narrative arc.
Right. And so this is why I like to say Flash has narrative structure. We know there's an intentional structure going here. Randall, because I know I can ask this of you, and I think you've seen this once before. What's one of the structural techniques you see Krasnahorkai using that lends structure to the piece instead of a traditional beginning, middle, and end?
Well, I think for me, part of it is, first off, the use of one sentence, kind of brings this, um, almost like a rushed sense, like it's to me, it feels like this is kind of a last thought almost, like you're looking back in that one moment across an entire life. And as long as it took us to read all of this in the mind, that all of that could cross through your head in, a second. So I think that's a big part of what's made it successful here is that, by utilizing it as one sentence, to me, it creates that feeling that this is all just one thought that all comes through at the same time in a blast.
Nice. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. That wasn't even what I was leading you towards. Wonderful. Yeah. Any other techniques we see at play here that make us think about structure? What do you see like a commonality occurring all throughout it? It's a really simple answer.
You going for syntax? Just the structure of the sentence, obviously.
Yeah, lovely. And what is happening mostly at the beginning of each of these phrases that are part of this one sentence piece?
It's a repetition of I would leave here.
Yeah, yeah. And what happens at the end? Like after and the intoxication of eternity, what happens to that structure?
We disrupt it with a for here, and then we
Yeah,
put here at the end and here at the end. I don't need anything from here for here, so we're playing with
yep. Yeah, and so
the
here
pull,
just
push and pull. It's a push and pull.
absolutely, yes. So he's using repetition, which is a great way to create structure, especially in a one sentence piece like this. And then he plays with the structure at the end, as Allison says, it's a push and pull until here becomes the most important word in this piece, right? Or at least it at least pushes us towards a greater profound truth in the piece, like something that's relatable to all of us, because in my reading of this, Krasnahorkai is saying we're a little bit worldly, we're a little bit attached to everything. And even as he says that, he says, I would leave here incantation, enigma, distances, inexhaustibility, and the intoxication of eternity. Like he says, even in trying not to be worldly, right? Those words, we have to leave that too, because whatever it is beyond here, we don't need here, because whatever he sees beyond here, or because he says, I've looked into what's coming and I don't need anything from here. And that's, I mean, really profound, because you're like, ah, he hasn't seen it. He's looked into it. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe he has seen it, but in his own philosophy, he says, I just can't know, and releases, or something like that, right? I mean, that's my reading of it.
Interestingly cryptic, where that you can take that ending in multiple ways in that.
Right.
So I guess it's personal experience in that
Exactly.
it can be very nihilistic. Like I've just been going down an analysis of everything everywhere all at once again, and it's clapped back to nihilism, and it's here's all these things, some of them incredibly beautiful, and some of them the experiences that we have as humans, our emotions, and things that aren't tangible, like distance and exhaustibility, like you said. And yet none of that matters, whether it's even materialistic or not. Those aren't even materialistic things. It's what you feel and what you think and how you philosophize about what life is. And you know what? None of it matters in
Yeah.
the end. Just like she said, nothing matters. It's just here's the end. But then he leaves you with that. I've looked into what's coming. Now, does he mean that there's nothing and it doesn't matter? Or does it mean something's better, different? It's going to be based on how you take that.
Yeah, exactly. Lovely. And so, very purposefully, he's playing with readers having their own experience with what he has said, right? Yeah. So I think it's incredible. I think it's not very structured. I think it's pretty philosophical. And I wanted to give you a sense of two types of, there's so many types, but one's much more narratively structured, and this one is much more philosophical and like working out a mental problem. Um, when we move into writing, then the prompt that we're going to work on now, uh, I suggest that you write about endings. I suggest you can use this list method, and you could use the single sentence method. You might use repetition, which would be fun. One of the fun repetitions to use is also just to start every phrase with because it implies a question that the narrator is answering. Whatever works for you. And then just see if you can lift this list into something closer to um, incantation or enigma, or the intoxication of eternity. If that shows up for you, great. If it doesn't, just start writing from a place of endings and repetition and see what happens. I wish you luck. I'm setting the clock. Go ahead and write. You have just about a minute left. All right, time is up. Randall has it so down. His head came up at the exact moment. Very impressed. I can promise you all that when I do the speed rounds, it actually times out better, and we usually get done right about now. We'll probably just go a little quicker here so we don't hold people too long. I want to respect your Saturdays. I definitely have a question for you, Randall, but I can pop over into Discord and do it on chat if you want.
Either way.
Yeah. Or you can hang out at the end if you want. That would be really
fine.
great if you have
That's
time.
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah. I want to also respect that you're probably tired.
No, I'm actually good. So
Okay.
I'm good. I appreciate it. That.
Yeah. Lori, hello. Were you able to write?
Hello. Oh, a very short one.
Yay.
I got the fridge and stove done. I still have the washer and dryer to do.
That's so fun that you have all new appliances.
Oh, fun. Yeah, it's not fun.
Well, if you want to send the fridge over, we're in the middle of we bought, I don't know why, the extended warranty thing for the fridge. And like a day after it
Oh.
got a year old, the craft ice maker doesn't make craft ice anymore. And the process you have to follow is to get somebody out to fix it. And if y'all know where I live, so there isn't anybody to fix it. And then my husband would have to hike the Pacific Crest Trail in the middle of it. So I have to start the process over because I don't know where he was. I don't know who to call. I do know he was on hold for like hours at a time. So it's just uncool. Uncool for sure. Well, does any of you want to read what you got?
I'll go.
Thanks, Randall.
A list of what I've left behind and a few things I've picked up. 1. Innocence. Departed too early, abraded by sandy winds of grow up already and stop acting so stupid. 2. Hope. Abandoned after rejection, in family, in love, in friends. 3. Religion. Escaped after too many years of soaking in suffering, of you ask too many questions. 4. Nihilism. Picked up, examined, quickly rejected, for its bedfellow despair refused to depart. 5. Stoicism. A balm added to wounds at the pointlessness of it all. Life has no meaning, so it has the meaning I give it. 6. Hope. Regained slowly, alongside new friends and long denied self love. 7. Peace. I searched for eons, and I will defend it to my dying breath. 8. This spot is reserved optimistically for whatever comes next.
Oh, that was so cool. That ending. Wow.
I tried to type it and it's all coming out wrong. Reserve. Resevered is what I have. What do we love? Other
Well,
than
how was
the
all
ending.
listed and the innocence departed too early, hope abandoned, but then hope comes back in. Stoicism was just a bomb. The structure was excellent and all the writing.
I agree, Lori. It actually has a really awesome narrative arc just based on what's chosen in the next words that come. So it's almost like we witness a life, right? A life up to this point, and a life that's really self-examined, the way that you have looked into nihilism and stoicism, right? Yeah. the sandy winds. Oh, and like you just think, oh, parents, why would you ever say that to your children? And then you also probably understand, like I haven't had kids, but I also understand why a parent might say that to a child. But not like that, not Sandy, not Sandy.
And, I've always looked at it as that was a perfect lesson of how to not be with my son. So
Excellent. I love that. I wonder if I was ever told to grow up. I mean, what I love is that you actually asked me to sort of engage with my own trajectory over the same things because I think probably everybody experiences the loss of innocence, and we haven't had your experience. So I know y'all have heard me talk about David L. Robbins from the Mighty Pen Project. He calls absolute truth our unique experience. So when you write this, Randall, you have very specific things in mind that caused each of these to come out. But there's also profound truth in all of it, which is the relatable kind of universal experience that you speak to that makes it relatable to us. And so I'm like, oh yeah, my innocence. Oh yeah, when I lost hope. Oh yeah, when my religion did the same thing, right? So you're still getting that like flash length engagement with your reader because we're comparing ourselves like inevitably, I think, to you. Any other thoughts?
I don't know why, but I immediately, whenever a writer introduces like a list or anything to that, I'm like, I love this structure. So it's automatically like, yes, because it's like it goes back to how punchy each one can be and what you can do with sentence length and everything. So that was my, like, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, yes, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah.
Randall doesn't disappoint. Thanks, Danielle.
Oh,
Okay, so I linger because I love people's writing, but I forgot we're supposed to move faster. So wonderful job, Randall. Who would like to go next?
Always hard to follow Randall, but I'll do a short but sweet one.
Thanks, Allison. It's
I
brilliant.
couldn't think. I don't know. I'm in a wrong. I'm waiting for that phone call, guys.
It's brilliant.
He sat in the sticky blue plastic chair beneath a blistering June morning sun. He sat erect, wanting to itch and pick at the awful starched gown covering his body, sweat beading in crinkled crevices of bent skin, the funk of the bodies around him masking his own nervous odor. He sat, thinking of this culmination, this commencement, this one tingling moment of in time frozen, the childhood friends he was leaving behind, the new adult ones he'd have to figure out how to make.
Ooh,
Just short.
no, lovely. And also, I mean, and I'm sorry to jump right in and then other people can go, but I felt like commencement could be literal and it could be figurative. And that really was attractive to me. And crinkled crevices. Oh,
yeah, I love that. That was my favorite part. But
And bent skin, like bent skin. You never picture it being
yeah.
described like that.
Is it crevices like this? I spelled crevasses, didn't I?
Your crevasse. You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
So yeah, syllable. Nice. Yeah, and I love the way it held off the sticky blue plastic chair, blistering sun, sitting erect, picking at his skin. All of it to me was like, why is this person even out there? And then the commencement excuses it literally, but also then can work on more than one level.
yeah,
That was
because it
really good.
really captured that nasty, uncomfortable feeling of formal ceremonies where you're just like, please, God, let this end. And it that really put me in the moment. But then you kept tightening the focus because at first, my reality that I brought into it was I'm sitting in the middle of a yard in the middle of summer in a chair.
Yeah,
Well, I'm outside when it's that hot, but I am. And
right.
then you went to the cloth, and for some reason that made me think maybe we were talking about like a patient at a mental hospital or something that was sitting outside. And then as it continued, I was like, okay, it's getting refined and tweaked down until eventually I get down to that point of what's actually going on. But the reason it works for me so well is because you started with such a strong sensory description. Like that opening sentence was just, I was immediately in that chair sweating and ready to be somewhere else.
Yeah, nicely done. Anything else? Good job, Allison. That was great. I think you should keep playing with that one for sure. Okay, Lori or Danielle, either of you want to read?
I can read because it's really short and like nothing to it as usual.
And
Okay.
what is it?
Brilliant and
Yeah,
brilliant.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Brilliant nothingness. I would leave nothing here: the fridge, the stove, the washer, the dryer, the baked on food that won't come off, the wobbly shelves that won't stay on. I would send it all away because I know it's coming. A dryer that doesn't smell like burnt toast, a fridge that seals and doesn't give off Arctic blasts when you walk by, a washer that washes clothes instead of slightly dampening the arm of a t-shirt. I know it's coming. They're already here, but I'm afraid to use them.
That was amazing.
Love it.
I have
That's
missed you, Lori.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's the kind of stuff Lori always writes.
Unless you drag her through 12 weeks of Firstly Flash and she kind of got
Yeah.
serious by the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost reached in there.
I start to grow, then I fall back down.
Oh no. It's just that you're hilarious.
I mean,
It's not
I've told Lori this several times. Like you really want to develop an authorial voice. Like you want people to recognize your voice. That's something that we strive for as writers. And like I've told Lori several times, I feel like I could have 100 short stories in a pile and I could find hers every single time because her voice is so distinct to her. And that's a
yeah.
good thing. Like I think it's very good.
Yeah, and I hope you won't be offended by this comparison, but I loved Irma Bombeck, and there is a certain like of that feeling of humor. But I think actually like more sophisticated. I mean, she's great, but yours, there's always a little sharp edge. Like humor only works if it's got truth in it, and yours always has that little bit of edge in it.
Yeah, it's that feeling that like you not like Lori's intentionally using simplistic language, but you know by the way it's constructed and the way it fits together that this is an intentional choice. It's not like I'm choosing to dwell in the surface level details for a purpose, and that to me that's why it works so well.
Yeah, yeah. The implied, figurative, philosophical, all of that's
Mhm.
there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And poor Lori, you
I
know.
think you're giving me more credit than I deserve. I mean, I was just writing what I've just been doing the last 2 hours.
But you
I am afraid
also
to use it.
you don't ever you don't ever just do something for the last 2 hours. You you like your brain is present and picking it apart all the time. That's why we give you that, you know?
Thanks.
Jean just wrote on text and she's like, Zoom crashed, it won't launch. So sorry. So
Oh,
she apologizes. And I'll just say back to her, we miss you. Sorry. Okay. No, 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 not question mark. Exclamation mark. Thank you. Not we miss you, question mark. I am a train wreck on text, so just know that if you ever text me, it's hilarious. Lori, fun as always. Thank you so much for writing and being here because I really have missed you. All right, Danielle, did you have something you want to read?
Yeah. It is
Great
very short. This one was hard.
and
So
brilliant.
brilliant. He cried at night, searching parking lots for me, his wife, losing herself to mental illness under stars and dying streetlights. He cried on the bathroom floor, drunk and wandering through his thoughts for refuge outside in the sun, where he saw no promise. He cried in the hospital as my doctor warned him he may lose me and our daughter and our future. But he stopped with relief as our daughter cried.
oh yeah.
Ooh, goosebumps.
Yeah.
Love that tie-in. I love the
Oh,
repetition of cried and then how you brought it in at the end. That was perfect.
yeah. Yeah. Everything Lori said.
And the
Goosebumps.
dying streetlights. That was a yeah, great one too.
Yeah. Definitely carrying a symbol through, right, Lori? Like what's happening
Yes.
to the wife. Yeah. And I there's this the bathroom floor drunk thing. Um, then he stopped with relief. Like I also felt like he stopped drinking, he stopped everything. Like he just didn't know how to handle what was happening. But when the daughter was born, boom,
Yeah.
everything righted itself. Is how the piece reads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so well captured that powerlessness that you feel when somebody that you love is suffering. Like that's just so powerful because that's relatable to basically everybody. And if somebody's not can't relate to that, they unfortunately will one day. So
Yeah.
You know, it speaks to something that's just absolutely true about the human condition.
Yeah, Randall, exactly. It's back to absolute truth is this specific experience, universal truth, profound truth, is that everybody who's lived long enough has had something like this happen. Yeah. Ah, y'all are brilliant. This is why I love Saturdays. This is why I keep doing it. Like, this is my personal time, but who cares? You're amazing. It was just incredible. I'm so glad you were here. And I put out on Discord, and I think I put it in the email and everything. It actually works for me to do this every 2 weeks this term. So if you're interested, please come back. As always, we have more alumni than we have new students usually every term, but you're always invited. I do put up a reminder in Discord, but if you have it on your calendar, like this is always the Zoom link. It never changes. So if you have it and you click on the Zoom link you used today, it'll bring you here every time. So it's not too hard to join us. Any last ideas, questions, or anything else? Okay,
I'm so
well,
glad I came. I mean,
I
I
am,
thought I'd be dealing with appliance delivery men, but this is
but
always so fun.
I'm glad you came too. Thank
And I
you.
loved all the pieces I missed while I was emptying. I could still hear it.